Sat down to film, brought up my notes, and for some reason I clicked a button, deleted all of my notes, so I had to go and rewrite the notes before sitting down again. Hello and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Erica with Memory Box Candle Co. and I make videos all about the journey of starting a candle business. And if you are somebody who is wanting to start your candle business here in this new year of 2023, then I have a couple tips for you to try to get your cost of goods as low as possible. So if you're not familiar with that term of cost of goods, essentially what that means is how much it actually costs you to produce one of your products that you then put up for sale on your website. So for instance, you have a cost of goods of each of my sizes of candles, cost of goods for my wax melt. All of those are different prices because they use different amounts and different quantities of each of the different supplies that go into that product. So I just want to share with you some of my tips on how you can get your cost of goods as low as possible. You can take some of these tips, you can take one or two of them, you can take none of them and be a rebel. But this is just from my experience. And I will say that I do live in the USA, and I know that these tips might not work for people that live outside of the USA, but just try to do the best as you can in taking these tips and kind of applying it to you and your business. So tip number one to get your cost of goods as low as possible is to try to order from candle suppliers that are closest in proximity to where you live. The number one thing that I recommend that all of you do, if you haven't already, jump onto Google, type in the phrase candle suppliers near me, and try to see if you actually live closer to a candle supplier than what you previously thought. You may be an hour or two away from a candle supplier, and that is close enough, in my opinion, for you to be able to drive there and pick up your supplies. Now, if you are somebody who lives somewhere and you don't have a candle supplier that is within driving distance to you, I still recommend that you do this, because whether or not they are 5 to 10 hours away from you, let's say they're in the same state, but they're too far for you to drive to make the trip to actually pick up your supplies from there, or let's say they're within maybe a state over from you or the surrounding states among your states, wherever it is, you just want to try to find a candle supplier that is closest to you. And the reason behind that is because shipping costs are part of the cost of goods overall price. So you do have to factor in how much it costs you to ship the item to you. That gets included in that total price that you then are able to break down per supply that you get that goes into your total cost of goods for your product. So you are just trying to find where's the closest supplier to me, because that will indicate and give you an idea on what's a good starting point for you to look into those products and what items that they sell. Now, this doesn't mean that you're not able to purchase items from a supplier that is far away from you. I purchase supplies from suppliers that are far away from me all the time, and the shipping costs are just higher. So for instance, I purchase from the Flaming Candle, and for me personally, the shipping costs are crazy, versus somebody else who is very close by, not that bad for shipping costs at all. So it really just depends on where you are. So just have fun with this. I really love this part of the process of just researching different candle suppliers and where they are, and try to see if there's somebody closer to you than you think. This video is sponsored by me and my website, ericamariemorris.com, where I create digital products to help other aspiring candle business owners. To learn more about my digital products and help support the channel, check out the links in the description box below. Tip number two may seem a little weird, but I will explain further on what I mean by it, and that is to use more common jars. So for instance, the 9-ounce straight set of jars, the 8-ounce jelly jars, jars that you can find from multiple different suppliers. And the reason behind that is because the more popular and more I guess, readily available kind of jars are going to be a positive in many different ways. First of all, you'll be able to find them at multiple different suppliers. Most of the time, unless we're going through some crazy times, which obviously we have, most of the times you will be able to find them readily available in stock at any time. And the benefit, the cost of goods benefit on this is that these jars are very common, they're very widely known, and they're mass produced like crazy from these manufacturers, which means that they're used to putting these materials together, and the cost to purchase them is usually lower. So these candle suppliers that are purchasing these items in bulk, they usually purchase a lot at a time because they know that they're more popular jars, so they order a lot higher quantities at a time, which will take that cost of goods down lower, which will then translate to you being able to get a better deal when you purchase from these suppliers. I hope that makes sense, but I feel like it's kind of like a domino effect. So if you have these very unique, beautiful, kind of one-off kind of jars, not really one-off, but that are a little bit more unique, that maybe these manufacturers, they are creating all these different kinds of jars, but they don't have a lot of buyers for it. Maybe it's only kind of a niche one. That could really drive up the cost of these different vessels. So I highly recommend that you look into getting started or running your business with these kind of jars. It doesn't have to be the ones that I listed. It could even be tins, which are positive in and of itself because also they're very, very light. So they're usually a lot cheaper to ship. So if you really want to cut your cost of goods down, use a couple different sizes of tins, and that way you're able to choose a vessel that is not only very common and popular that you can find everywhere, and usually that cost of goods will be lower, but you will also save on shipping costs if you do need to have it shipped to you because the items are so much lighter. And then my third and final tip is just to focus on purchasing each of your supply items in bulk. Now, one of the things that I noticed from a lot of different comments of people commenting over the years on my YouTube channel is that a lot of people focus on how many candles can I make with the supplies that I purchased. And I want you to not think about purchasing supplies in that way. So don't purchase 48 jars and then only purchase enough of your other supplies to make 48 candles. That's not going to yield the lowest cost of goods per item that you are making, per product that you're making, because it's just if you're only purchasing 48 wicks at a time, enough to make 48 candles at a time, which could be, let's say, 10 pounds of wax, it really just doesn't equate to getting that lowest cost of goods available to you. So this is kind of the way and the alternative way that I want you to think about it. Think about each individual item that it takes, each supply item, each supply, I don't even know how to, supplies item, you know what I mean, wicks, wax, jars, fragrance oil, all that kind of stuff. And you're going to look at those as each separate items and think about how much you can purchase those individual items in bulk, which will take your cost of goods down further. So let's say instead of purchasing 100 wicks at a time because you're really only making, 48 to 100 candles in that batch of getting those jars, you purchase 1,000 wicks at a time or 10,000 wicks at a time if you can, and that will take down the cost of goods, let's say, down to 7 cents a wick if you're ordering that many in bulk. It's really just looking at how low can I get this one specific part of my supplies that will then add up together, and all of these individual lower costs will go into the total cost that it takes to make my candle, and all of those lower costs will combine together to give you kind of your lowest cost available to you. And then one more thing I wanted to mention in this specific part of this video is that I would recommend, if you are somebody who is just getting started with your business and you are wanting to try to keep your cost of goods low, all of the tips that I've mentioned so far in this video will help you get there. And another tip that I recommend is actually to not have tons and tons and tons of fragrance options. And the reason behind that is because if you have, let's say, 4 to 8 signature scents that you have available on your website, you're able to purchase bigger quantities of those fragrance oils versus if you had like 20, 30, 40 different scents, and let's say you don't have the money available to purchase 5 to 10 pound jugs of each of those fragrance oils, and they end up just sitting around or you're spending too much money on that. But if you have, let's say, 4 to 8 signature scents and you're able to purchase the 5 to 10 pound jugs, you're able to get a better price per ounce than you would if you had more scents and you were only purchasing, let's say, the 16-ounce bottles at a time. And an example of this is on Candle Science. So let's say I wanted to purchase the Sea Minerals fragrance oil, and instead of purchasing the 16-ounce bottle for, I believe, $192 or $191 an ounce, you can purchase the 5-pound bottle and you can save about 21 cents an ounce by doing it that way. Now, I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but trust me, in the process of getting your cost of goods down lower, specifically for fragrance oil, because we all know that fragrance oil is really, really expensive, it really just helps to add into the total cost and try to get that total number as low as possible. But that is all the advice that I have for you in today's video. Feel free to leave a comment down in the comment section below. Let me know what your best piece of advice is to get your cost of goods as low as possible. And also let me know how you felt about this video. If you enjoyed today's video, make sure to leave it a big thumbs up, as well as subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Also, don't forget to follow me over on Instagram at Memory Box Candle Co. And I will see you in my next video.